Hi guys, and welcome back to another episode of The Talk with me, Chef Michael. You already know by now, but this podcast is really about diving in to exactly what's going on in the diet community, in keto, in food, and really having the tough conversations that we need to have. This season, I got lots of awesome guests, and there's a lot more coming, so please stay tuned. And if you're interested in learning more about the podcast, go to chefmichael.com, and that's chef-michael.com/podcast. You can also join us after the show for our bonus episode, and I'm going to basically kick out our guest and talk to you face to face, just me, you, and the camera. We'll dive in a little deeper into everything we talked about, and I'll respond to what our guest said. So join me over there for the bonus episodes, as well as some other cool free content at patreon.com/Chef Michael. For a few dollars a month, you get to join and get all that bonus content. And what's even more special about that is that you're also supporting the podcast. It really helps me keep the cameras running and just kind of keeps this going and letting me keep sharing with you. So if you're able to join me on Patreon, it really does mean a lot to me. Also, thank you so much to our sponsor, Redmond Real Salt, for providing support for the podcast. Guys, you gotta be using Redmond salt, especially if you're on a keto diet, because obviously electrolytes are incredibly important. And what's cool about Redmond salt is that it is completely natural from a dried up ancient seabed in Utah, and it's got 65 trace minerals, which is amazing. So you're getting lots of other electrolytes, not just sodium, when you use Redmond Real Salt. I also use it in all my cooking because it tastes good too. I could even just eat it plain, but that's a whole other discussion. Go to redmond.life, not redmond.com, but redmond.life to place an order. You can use the discount code Chef Michael for 15% off. They don't just have salt. They also have a lot of other really cool products like toothpastes and lifestyle but beauty goods and things like that, if I can get my words right. And of course, they also have electrolyte supplements that you can add to your drinks. So lots of cool stuff at redmond.life. You can also just pick up their regular sea salt at your grocery store now. Just go to the spice aisle where all the salt and stuff is, and you should be able to find some Redmond salt there as well. So definitely check that out. Thanks again, Redmond, for all your support. All right, so our guest today, Desiree, better known as ketoassbih on Instagram, is just a personal friend that I've gotten to know. She's been a big part of the Instagram community for a long time. I absolutely adore her. I love the sort of energy that she brings to the space and how much she shares her life. And I think she's got a lot of insight. So I'm curious to see where the conversation goes today. As you guys know, I don't pre-plan these episodes. I don't have an agenda. It's just a conversation. That's why I called it The Talk. So let's bring Desiree up on stage and we'll have a little chat.
Hello.
Hi. Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Is that better?
Hella better. Welcome back.
Yay! Yay, 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 yay. I know Kevin has the best computer.
He got the good setup. Well, we're going to try this again. Take two.
Take two.
Raise a glass. We're going to raise it up.
Another coffee. My espresso's already in there. I was like, oh, let's get it.
So, well, I think there's no shame in showing the imperfections. So for the audience listening, this is our second attempt.
Number two. We had a whole conversation before, and it was a pretty good one. And then we're like, oops, just kidding.
Oops, yeah, and we're not gonna be able to recreate the beauty that was, but right. We'll just wrap. We'll see where it goes.
For sure.
I thought it was a lot of fun. So we'll try again. I hope you don't mind trying for version 2.
Not at all. I enjoy a little chat time with Michael over here. So
a little talk, a little coffee,
a little coffee to talk. We're good. So
okay. Well, I gave you a little bit of an introduction, but
okay.
The world famous Desiree Frederickson, aka ketoassbih, welcome back to the show.
So glad to be back here. It's only been
48 hours, maybe
40 hours. Yeah,
maybe 40 hours.
Good enough, a little stretch.
This time coming at you from hubby's studio.
Yeah, because that other one, I don't know what was going on with that computer. I like I told you, I I'm pretty savvy on social media, but you give me actual electronics or anything else, it's like I'm just dumb. I don't understand. Like I cannot read directions. I can't connect things. And so I basically like, you know how like when you do things you just kind of like whoop, like you freeze up and you're like, I don't know what I'm doing. So that's what I get. I just give it to him and he figures it all out.
I do.
So
I mean, there's some things like I'm okay with kind of basics of computing. I did a little tech like some years back, but like
mhm.
all this beautiful things happening right now on screen, I can take zero credit for. Dan, my producer, is a genius, and he put all this together for me. And it was so funny because we did it from a distance. So I had like, oh my gosh, I wish you could see how, first of all, how low budget this whole setup is. But second of all, like
You're full of me.
he's in like San Antonio. I'm here in Austin, which is like maybe an hour and a half apart. So I had like my cell phone on FaceTime, and he was like trying to see the room and direct me and moving lights.
Oh
And so there's 1, 2, 3 lights and a camera and a computer and a mic.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty legit, but also like,
no, it looks from where I'm at, like I said, remember I told you last time, I said, you are glowing. You have a nice little backlit with the black backdrop. I'm like, I need to get me one of those. Like I need to always do like little stories or like things with like a back, like with a halo around me. Just, nothing, not my coffee with a halo.
well, meanwhile, the drag queen filter and the others that you use will suffice.
If I could literally just be in one filter all day, like for the rest of my life, it would probably be that one. Like if I could just switch that on, it's such like a good mood.
Is it good?
Oh yeah, it's good.
Do you need headphones?
No, I don't think I need
Tell
headphones,
Kat
right?
to come say hi. Come say hi.
Oh yeah, he wants to say hi. It's not it's a podcast, so no one's gonna record you, babe.
Hi. I just got up.
I was like, you need to wake your ass up. I'm about to get in this podcast. It's your turn to get with these kids and the dogs.
How's it going, Michael?
This is ketoassbih.
Yes, it is.
Oh.
Or just Kev.
Hi.
Just Daddy Kev to most.
Daddy Kev. I like that.
Daddy Kev. Yeah.
Just sticks. Did you know there's a DJ named Daddy Kev?
Really?
Yeah. He's
That's
like
a
a
good-
really
that's a good
popular
name.
DJ. And it's also him too.
It's not me.
Wait.
Because he
now
DJs.
I'm confused.
He moonlights as a DJ, you know what I'm saying? So
Well, thanks for coming in your pajamas, Kev.
Yeah.
That was really cool of you.
it's real life.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
PJs, bedhead,
Fancy
you got
hair
it going
and
on.
everything.
Yeah. I love it.
Okay.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well,
Make sure.
so we had some fun conversation. There were some questions that I realized after I didn't get to ask you, and so we'll
All
kind
right,
of like
let's
make
get
this one just, there's no point in trying to repeat the past, right? Like we got to just like
For sure.
move forward. But you've been a friend of mine in the keto space for a long time. We've actually met 2 or 3 times in person. We got some good vibes going. I think me and probably a lot of other people really like your style. And I kind of like thought it would be interesting to see where the conversation goes, because in many ways, I think you're very, one of the many things I like about you is that I think you're kind of just unapologetically ketoassbih. Like there's just no sugarcoating or, you come in and just like do you. There's no one like you. There shouldn't be anyone else like you. And I love it. So
I'm what you see is what you get,
yeah.
I mean, I've it's so funny because it's like you think of, I'm in my 30s. Okay, I'm in my
Same.
mid to late 30s. I like to say it because honestly, my 20s were really wild, but I feel like my 30s I've really finally settled into like who the fuck I am. And I think that's kind of what it is. Like you do your 20s, you're trying to figure out who you are, you have fun, you make mistakes, you learn from your mistakes. Your 30s are supposed to be kind of like, okay, let's go from it. And I'm excited about my 40s, but for me, I've noticed in the last several years, I just really don't give a shit about what people think. Like if somebody has like an opinion about me, they could be like, ew, like I don't like that girl or whatever. And it's like, okay, it's not a big deal to me. Like I can't sit there and focus on what people like or don't like about me. I just have to be myself. And if they vibe with that, then they vibe with that. And that's cool. Just like I feel like I would vibe with people in general. Like if you are who you are, then let's get to know who you are. I don't know. I can't I don't have the energy to be like a perception of me anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
I did
yeah,
that
for
in my
sure.
20s.
And that's like kind of
So
what it's
yeah,
about. I'm with you. I'm in my mid 30s. I remember when I was like getting in my 20s, I was like maybe 28 or something. I had some friends that are, I've always had friends that are older than me since I was little. And
mhm.
like, I remember an older friend of mine was like, I was freaking out about turning 30. And they were like, no, 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 you don't understand. Like it gets better as you get older. Your 30s
Mhm.
are better. Your 30s are just your 20s, but with your shit together. And
Mhm.
your 40s are your 30s, but with money.
I'm ready for 40s. That's all I can say. I'm like,
I
I'm
love it.
turning 37 this year, and I'm like, let's go. Kevin, like, my husband, he's a year younger than me, so I always give him shit. I'm always like, "Ooh, we're in our mid 30s, or we're in our late 30s." He's like, "No, we're not. We are in our 30s." Like, he don't want to go that route, and I was like, "I love
Mm,
it. I can't wait till I
mm.
hit 40." I'm like, "Let me just celebrate. I'm good with that." But yeah, the 20s were actual shit. Like when I think back in my 20s and like the debauchery that I dealt with, I mean, granted, I learned from it, but man, like I didn't really, I knew who I was, but not really. Like I felt like I wanted to be this perception of what people thought I was. And
Mhm.
so I like tried to live up to it. And then you had the moments where I was just this crazy fucking bitch, and they're like, "Oh, you're really like that." I'm like, "I am." This is it. So,
Yeah,
but yeah.
yeah. I think that's probably true in a sense. I mean, in a different way for everybody, but like in a sense,
Mhm.
I think if you haven't done some work on yourself by your 30s, like what's happening?
Okay. All right. Those are to me, that's like one of those like midlife crisis situations. Like you're just like, well, shit. Like I didn't do any of this. I didn't do
Yeah,
this, and
yeah.
like now I want to do
It's a
all
lot of
that.
self-awareness. Like I've definitely through the last few years, I think I'm 34. I don't even know my age. I think I'm
Yeah, it's so
turning
funny when you hit
34.
your 30s, you don't even know how old you are
It's
really.
all
Like you have
kind of
to
the
really think
same.
about it.
Yeah, I think I'm 34. Maybe I'm going to turn
Yeah.
34 in September. Aren't we both Virgos?
Yes,
P.S.
we
We
are.
are, right? Okay, okay. I'm
Yay.
September 6th. What are you again?
Yes, you're born on my dad's birthday.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, that's why I was like, there's a few people in this community that are born on the same day as my dad. And you know what's so funny is that my dad, he is a Virgo, but he is not a Virgo. Like he's very specific. So like it depends on like where like we can actually go into this, but it depends on where your chart is because I like do all this astrology shit. And like to me, when I look at my dad, he's a Virgo, but that man has like hella like Libra fire energy because he is like the life of the party. Like that man, all that man wants to do is party, have a good
I
time.
know. Is
And
that
then
your dad that I
Virgo,
always see in your videos where he's like dancing, singing
yes,
karaoke, like just like
yes.
wild and out, wilding out?
He's everyone's always like, why is your dad not on a TV show? I was like, I don't know, but I really don't like
Yeah. See,
don't
I'm
give that
not
man
like that
another
at
avenue.
all. I'm not like that at all. I won't
Yeah.
dance, sing, or do anything in front of people. I'm not interested in being the center of the party by
Yeah,
any
but that's what I'm
means.
saying. It could be like where your chart is, because like you could just be more like a more of like introverted type of Virgo, whereas like my dad's not at all. So it's really
Yeah,
interesting
yeah.
because
Well,
everyone thinks
okay.
that we're all
So
the same.
because I love this stuff. I've had my tarot cards read many times. Although obviously everyone's different. I want to ask you about this. We didn't talk about this last
Yes,
time, but like let's get
yes.
into this
Let's
astrology and
do it.
because you got some like kind like, and I say this with the most admiration and love possible, but you got kind of like some witchy, spooky vibes going, and I'm obsessed with it.
Yeah,
Let's go. Like,
I
um,
mean,
yeah. So read me. I mean, not literally read me, but
I
like,
mean,
talk to me
I
about
got
being like as a Virgo. Let's talk about that for a
mhm,
second, and then just in
yeah,
general, when did you get into all this, and has it had any kind of applications for you in terms of like, I don't know, kind of like your journey to self awareness, which is all part of
totally.
health, and it all connects. Like our self awareness and who we are plays into like health, plays into keto, plays in how we eat, how we interact with the world. It's more connected than people want to give it credit, in my
Mhm.
opinion.
No, no, it's immense. And when I say it's immense, like I always recommend people like when I get down this rabbit hole of talking about astrology or anything else, it's like I kind of just people are always kind of like, "Wait, I don't know what it's about." Like, I don't know. I'm like, I'll try to explain it as much as possible, but it's so
It's
broad.
big.
Like you're barely scratching the surface. Like just even like looking at your birth chart, like you were not even scratching the tip of it. So the thing for me is that I just started discovering like all this stuff. I want to say maybe like 6 years ago. 6, 7. And it was like a weird time because like I was going through, like I was depressed. I was going through a lot of depression, and at the time, like Kevin and I had been together for a few years. We were already married. We had my daughter, and like I was going through bouts of depression. Like I was drinking a lot, and basically my girlfriend, she's a witch. Like she's in the occult community, and so I kind of reached out to her, and I was like asking her about certain things. I didn't want to like do it just to do it, because I feel like I like to do things with the utmost respect. So if I'm going to be trying something, like I want to learn as much as I can before I just start like doing shit, so I asked her about it. I asked her about tarot, and she basically is just like, girl, like you need to just kind of get into it and see what works, because some
It's a
people,
lot of study.
it's a lot of study, and I'm a Virgo, so I love to read up on things. Like I like to, before I even divulge, I don't divulge into half-ass shit. I just, like, same thing with keto. Like before I got into keto, I read about everything I could for like a whole month prior. I was really like analyzing it. I didn't tell anybody that I was doing it. I just basically like got stuck into it. And that's kind of, I did it with like all this other stuff too. So I just basically practiced stuff on my own, and that's kind of how I do things now. I think there was like a moment where I was kind of reading cards for people, but the thing for that is that, and I always tell people, I said, you have to be careful when you're reading cards for other people, because you don't know what kind of energy you're giving with them, and it's very intimate. So I personally can't do intimacy like that with some people, because I don't know what fucking shit they've got going on,
And you don't want to
and like
plant a seed that
I don't
like,
want to, well, I don't want to get their shit, because that's happened many times where I've done readings for people and I feel so exhausted. I feel so negative. I feel it's like almost like I just sucked all their bullshit in. And you have to do a lot of like boundaries and all that stuff. But I
that's sort of
personally,
that's the empath of Virgo. Like we do
yes,
suck that shit up from the
yes, we
people
do.
around us for a
Hmm.
fact. That's one of the
Yeah,
reasons why like I find social media as amazing as I do exhausting,
it's
because it's like
difficult.
just being there for so many people, I absorb a lot of it.
Yeah. I always one of my friends, he made a note that I was like, oh, that sounds like a good idea. So you know how like you have your phone late at night, or you put your phone, if it's by your bed or anywhere it's at, you need they he was like saying you should put black stones, whether it be like onyx, tourmaline, or whatever, like around obsidian around it, because black repels negative energy, especially on your phone, because you don't know like what's being stagnant in it. So he's always saying like put your phone next to any type of black stones at night, and it helps get rid of that. And so I started doing that, and because at one point I was like dealing with some bullshit, and so I started doing that. But anyways, going back into that, so I started kind of divulging into it, and the thing that I love the most right now with astrology is that it's just like you said, it's all about self discovery. And that is basically what it is. Like you're analyzing your birth chart, you're seeing where things lie and who you are as a person. And it really breaks it down, and it kind of freaks you out a little bit at first, because you're just like, holy shit, that's me. What the fuck? That's me. Wow, wow, wow. Like that's crazy. And then the more you read, the more you start to really understand yourself. So like when I started getting into it, I was like, this all makes sense. So right now, the way I live my life in a way that I can understand myself better. So like my rising sign, my moon sign, my Mars, like I'm able to understand what's going on with like, transitions throughout like right now we're at the very, I think we just ended Pisces season. I think it starts tomorrow. Like in a few hours, we go into Aries. So
Yep.
because of the last several days, this is going to sound really crazy. So the last several days, I just talked about my story. They've been really, really intense, like for me, for dreams. I don't know if you dream really crazy, but I do, like intensely.
Oh, you're
And so
freaking me out. My dream log's been like I haven't put anything in my dream log in weeks, and I've had
it's
two
been,
this week that I woke up and I write in my dream log when I'm like half asleep, and then wake up the next morning and read it. And it
mhm.
happened twice this week,
the,
which never happens.
yeah, okay, the last 5 days, I literally I'll go to sleep and I'm just like, I know something's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen, but the last 5 days have been like that. And it's because I feel like we're at the very last degree of Pisces season, which is really amplified. So we're
Okay, wait, can
getting
I
all of
pause?
our,
Wait, I have to ask you a question about that.
yes,
Well, first
yeah.
of all, side note, my partner's a Pisces. So I don't know if that plays into this, but this was so, I cannot believe you just brought up dreams, because I literally haven't written in my dream log. I don't even think this year. Like I only write it if I wake up to it and like consciously remember, because I do dream and sometimes wake up, but I don't even remember what woke me.
Yeah.
Twice this week, I had dreams, and both of them were about my childhood, but like in a very specific way where like I was kind of my adult self in my childhood body, but conscious of it. Like both dreams, two or 3 days apart, were me back in my childhood. Same kind of dream, but like different experience. And it's been on my mind. And here you go, mention dreams, and I'm gonna like reach for the camera and like smack you because you're freaking me out right now.
Well, because I think that we're about to go into Aries season. Aries season is really intense. It's just a fire sign. But Pisces season it's a water sign. It's very creative. You dream like fucking crazy. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know what's been going on, but like the last 5 days, like I literally like I go to sleep and I know immense like dreams, right? It's like that. I wake up and I'm like, okay, what was that about? You know, I mean, like I said, I have often dreams, and they say that sometimes depending on like where you're in your chart, like what specific houses and all that stuff, that you can like even have like astral out of body dreams. So you could have been having like an astral dream, obviously because your adult self was going into your childhood body or childhood self. So this is the thing. When people say like, oh, dreams, they don't have meanings, or like dreams are like just dreams. It's like, no, I think dreams are like gateways to other things. Like I think people astral project. I think people travel in their dreams. I think that it's all like, it's another fucking highway.
Yeah.
Cause I've had way too many dreams that don't make no fucking sense. And here I'm like, what the fuck was that? Like, okay.
And obviously, I'm not asking you for answers, but I did. No. I had to like pull it up because I'm not bullshitting. So 3:15, which was Monday, and 3:19, which it wasn't last night, so it must have been after midnight of the night before. So we're talking Monday night and Thursday night. I'm not going to read it because it's like real free. That's like going too deep into my brain. But I'll read it to you off camera. But I'm not going to read it like to be held on my podcast. But in 3:15 dream, March 15th, I'm 8 years old, but I have all my memories as of today. Like I got sent back in time. I'm actually reading a little bit of it to you. So I'm very much a kid, but with the awareness of today stuck in my kid's body. And then I describe all that was happening to me at summer camp and other things at 8 years old. Yeah. That was on Monday night. Then Thursday night, and this is what I wrote, half asleep, super stressed. I was a kid again. Felt like high school, but it was weird because I was studying for AP World History, but 2 days before my bar mitzvah, which occurs at 13. So I'm 8 on Monday and 13 on Thursday night. And I don't think I've ever in my dream log had anything about going back in time as a kid. It's usually like some crazy freaky shit. It had nothing to do with going back in time and being put in my childhood body. And it happened twice, 4 days apart this week.
Mm-hmm.
You're freaking me out over here.
Something's going on. I know. And it's so funny because like I have people like messaging me, like sometimes they'll be like, is there something going on with this? And I'm like, I'll check. I'm like,
in non-tangible ways, this week's been fucking crazy. Like the emotion of this week, obviously being faced with a lot of trauma and tragedy, especially in the Asian community, being really brought to light this week. It's not a new problem, but it's really been brought to light this week. This is just a weird week. Like in general, I've been like in a really weird space this week, and I know so many others have. But I'm just tying this all together. I can't get off this like dream log weird thing, and I wasn't overthinking it. And then you called out like, anyway, we got to get off this topic. of that dream log, because
we can go on and on and on and on, because like I seriously, like I literally just talked about my stories, and I was like, is anybody experiencing this? And I'm pretty sure I'm gonna get a lot of responses being like, yeah, because I whenever I start to feel like off, like I don't know if you go on Twitter.
I don't.
Okay.
I got enough between Instagram and TikTok.
Okay, well, Twitter is like my help, it's like my news source for like astrology, for regular news, for all this stuff.
I'm kind of I'm more like Reddit in that sense than Twitter. Okay.
Well, it's funny because that's Kevin, and Kevin and I will both find out the same fucking info, but from different platforms. So he'll be like, "Oh, did you see this?" I'm like, "Yeah, I saw it on Twitter." He's like, "Oh, I saw it on Reddit." I was like, "Okay, well, we both saw it at the same time then." Like, we both saw it, but yeah, Twitter.
Like,
Anytime
step
like
off,
there's weird
Kevin.
stuff,
Step off.
I know.
You're
Relax,
late.
Kevin, with
You're
your
late.
Reddit self. I've been knowing about Twitter.
I know.
Okay.
That happens with my man all the time. He comes home, he's like, "Did you see this?" I'm like, "You're late. I saw that yesterday."
Okay. We know. We've been knowing. We've been knowing. Which, by the way, interesting. Pisces and Virgo. I love
What's
that.
Kevin?
He's a Cancer. So
Mm.
water signs and earth signs are like, it's so funny because they're really good together, but they're also very manipulative together.
So that was us in the beginning. We've been together for 11 years.
Oh, wow.
So that the beginning was tumultuous, shall I
Yes.
say. It was rocky. And not in regards to how we felt about each other, but like there was just so much clashing. And now
Intensity.
it's like
Yeah.
when I tell you we haven't had a single fight, disagreement, argument, raise our voice, like when I tell you it is just like we are like a ship on steady seas. Like it is
Aw.
just nothing. It took some work to get there, maybe about 3-4 years of hard work, but like
Mm-hmm.
we are complete opposites. So you nailed it. Like it
Yep.
was a really, I mean, literally his birthday is my half birthday. So we are
When's his birthday?
March 7th. So it's one day off
Oh,
of
okay.
half birthdays. So um it's a very yin and yang thing, and that's really
Mm-hmm.
powerful, but it's also really
Well,
challenging.
when it works, yes, when it works, because that's how Kevin and I are. Like Kevin, if you look at me, like I'm so like abrasive in your face, and then you have Kevin that's very like
Nah.
he's very like it's so funny. I fucking hate it sometimes because everyone's like, "Oh my God, I love Kevin. He's so sweet. He's so this," and I was like, "He's a dick." Okay, I love my husband, but he could be a dick. Y'all just don't see that side of him. You guys just see me being abrasive, but he really low key is a dick like all the time. But no, he's calm. He's very structured. He has like his energy is very relaxing, whereas like I'm just like like
Mm,
hey, so it's I totally see the yin and yang thing, but when it works really well. It's a
right.
great working relationship. Like you like really do put the effort and energy to work together because there's so much disconnect that you have to find the
Mm.
balance. You know what I
Well,
mean?
and I think that when it works, it's amazing thing. But like at least for us, I'm sure that there's a lot of couples that might have had potential that just couldn't get through that
Mm-hmm.
understanding phase where it's like the way we exist through the world is so different. So like when, for instance, like if the way that he'll handle a problem in his life, or like the way that I want to jump in and kind of like assert myself, it just doesn't work in the beginning. It took a lot to get to that point. And I think that's
Mm-hmm.
part of it is self-understanding, kind of self-awareness, as this kind of topic keeps coming up, self-discovery, self-exploration,
Mm-hmm.
and like knowing that this is how I deal with my shit. When I have an emotional reaction to things, this is how it kind of exerts itself out and like exposes itself, which is really different. Like I'm uh very like, this is how I feel. I do not need to hold back. I don't need to like bottle it up. And he's very much like, I'm going to hold this for a year and build, like that's just an example, but it's like,
That is okay. I'm gonna stop you right there, Michael. That is hella Virgo energy though, because I'm the same fucking way. Like when I feel something, you probably have a Mercury in Virgo. That's probably why you're so, because I've noticed that people that are Virgo Mercuries, which is like the communication planet. So what they do is they're very like, this is how it is. Like there's no
mhm,
fucking bullshit. I'm gonna explain how it
correct.
is. And when you say it with such confidence, like you know exactly what you're saying, like you know what you mean, like you say it and that's it. Like there's no fucking buffer, like you're just gonna say it.
Mm-mm.
And sometimes a lot of times that can be very intimidating for people. Like Kevin, his whole thing is that he's just like, I don't know what to say, I don't know how to respond, so instead of respond, because you're so confident in the way that you say things, I don't want to say it wrong, so instead he just
Mm,
doesn't say
interesting.
anything. And
Cause
I'm
like for
always
me,
like,
if somebody like pisses me off in my life, I'm just like, ring ring, like yo, what was up with that, dude? Like,
Mhm.
I'm not okay with this. Like,
Are you good? What's up?
yeah, like I have
Don't
no
don't
issues with
beat around the bush.
that.
Just tell me what's going on.
Right. Like I'm not passive aggressive. I'm aggressive.
I'm in your face. I don't do no passive aggressive bullshit. When I
Yeah,
see passive
yeah.
aggressive stuff, I'm like, that's cowardly. Just say what you mean and then move on. Like there's no need to,
Yeah, either we squash it and move on, or we don't and move on. Like,
exactly. That's what
like
I'm
this.
saying. It's
Yeah,
like you don't have to be friends with me, but you can just say how you feel and then move on. Like there doesn't need to be like I think everyone is so I think the problem is that everyone feels like they need to be like cordial with each other or like they have to have like um they have to like everybody and everybody has to like them and it's like look, I don't have to be friends with that person. I can still be in the same group or whatever and but I don't have to be close with that person and it's okay. It's not a big deal. Like you and I can have like a disagreement and we can be like okay, that's cool. Like now that's where our friendship has lied
yeah.
and it's not a big deal.
I think people perceive it in those scenarios though, like we're not emotional about it, but it's quite the opposite for me. I'm like
It is.
extraordinarily sensitive and emotional. I'm a
Mhm.
crier. I'm very tapped into my
I need to do
emotions.
your chart.
Yeah, I
I need
think
to do your
so.
chart.
I think so
Mhm.
because like it's not that I'm not emotional about it. I just want to address it and move on. And like if somebody hurts me, I don't have an issue letting them know. And if it's not going to be fixed, then let's just move on and like it'll just be
Yeah.
done. And it hurts me a lot to do that. It's not that it's not that I'm cold or like that that shit hurts and affects me more than anything, but I'm also
Yeah.
like I'm just done. I don't need this energy anymore. Like I'm very quick to get hurt by somebody and it's just like
Mm, meh. Well,
yeah.
it is what it is. I know. It's so funny because it's like I feel like that's really well, I mean we talk about that's the 30s. Like we just don't have the room for
Yeah,
that.
we don't need yeah. Like I don't need 600 friends. I need 4.
And it's so funny because my mother-in-law, she told me like one of the very first things she told me, she was like, Desiree. And I was like, okay, Roberta. She's like, she's like, you can have all your friends. She's like, but really, when you get to my age, she's like, you really only need like 2 or 3. And I was like, I
Mhm.
know, Roberta. Like, I know, but she's true. It's true. Like, you really only need like you can have a good amount of friends, but really the people that matter can fit on your hand on one hand. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
that's fine. But we
This
go
is
through all that. We go
I'm
through all
kind
that.
of fascinated by this because while I'm not that I'm not into it, but I've never really dove into astrology or
You
tarot or
should.
anything myself as it being knowledgeable about it. I've had people read me and stuff. But one thing that I am really into is like personality testing. In general,
Oh
I'm
yeah.
really fascinated by people and like personality types and psychology and all this kind of stuff. I find it
Mhm.
really fascinating, especially over the last 3 years or so. Once I started doing therapy, I've become just like really interested. I've been reading different books about it. And like, I kind of just think it's fascinating that as complex as humans are, we're also like kind of stupidly predictable in many ways too.
I
Um,
know.
yeah. And so I have been, so several years ago, I was like really into Enneagrams. And for the past, I don't know, maybe like 4 or 5, I don't even know how many years, I've been very consistently a 3-wing 2 Enneagram. And I don't know, are you aware of all this?
I am.
It's sort of like the newer
You know who
version of like the INFJ kind of conversation.
yes.
It's like
So
that further. Yeah.
I did my Enneagram. Well, okay, so one time I was with Myra and Chrissy was going on about Enneagrams. And so I was like, she's like, oh, do you know yours? I'm this. And I'm like, I was like, let me check it. I think I'm like what's the one that's like, I think I'm like a 4 maybe. I don't know. I'm not too
So
sure.
I don't know them all. I'm not like, I don't have them all memorized.
Yeah.
We should dive into it for each other.
Yes. We'll do that.
um,
You do my Enneagram and I'll do your chart
yeah,
because
yeah,
very similar. They're very similar. Like they basically dissect like who you are. So I don't
yeah.
know. I think I got when I did mine though. It's so funny because it's like I have a lot of placements in my chart, and like whenever I do these things, it basically says like you're very motherly, you're very giving, and I'm always like, yeah, okay, I know that I'm motherly, but like I have a lot of like, I don't give a fuck type of attitude. So I was like, where's that in my chart? Where's that in my Enneagram? Because like, I need to see that shit. Like, because I know that I have that. So
Yeah, I
I was like,
think you
don't give
should
me none of this
definitely
like mother
do.
shit.
Yeah, you should definitely do some Enneagram stuff. So what's weird is like generally speaking, it doesn't change in your life. There's this thing with the Enneagrams that you're generally what number you are. However,
Mm,
within that number, there's a scale from unhealthy to healthy. So
yeah.
essentially, like if you're it's sort of like a maturity level thing where it's like if you're unhealthy, you're sort of a highly immature three, and how that manifests. And as you in many ways it could be as you age or it just could be like as you learn about yourself and grow and like work on yourself, you become healthier and healthier within your number. So
Mm,
fine, right? Like, so I've been like just the last year kind of just really tuned in to myself. It's been like a weird year for all of us, and like this was a weird week. So it made me think of this because of the weird week discussion. So I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna retake my Enneagram because I don't know, just like feeling different. And I took my Enneagram, the same one that I always take. And I've been for years a 3-wing 2, which means I'm a 3 where I lean a little bit towards a 2.
mm.
And I was 98% an 8. Like it's like my whole personality is now
It's changed.
completely shifted to the other side of the circle.
Okay.
Um,
Are you ready
and
for
I'm like,
this?
I'm tripping out.
Are you ready for this?
Hit me.
So, going back into astrology, you have your birth chart, right? The time that you're born, your birth chart, everything, there's all these things. But you transition all the fucking time. So, where you're at in your chart right now, you're probably not a Virgo. You're probably more leaning towards, you could be leaning towards more like, I don't know, another sign. So, like right now, where my chart is, I've been having for the last several years very Scorpio energy, which is exactly what you get, very in your face. And everything changes over a course of time. And then you also deal with transits where the moon and the planets align with where your chart is at, and it changes all the fucking time. So basically, where you were 3 years ago is totally different in your chart right now. So you have your birth chart, your
Whoa.
birth
Okay.
by your natal chart.
So
So where you
astrology
put
kind
right
of allows for this in a sense, but Enneagram
yes,
doesn't typically. Like typically, like
right.
you can identify an Enneagram number as a child for children, and it
Mhm.
generally it does change, but not this dramatically, and it does. And so I've been now all of a sudden I'm in like in a very me sense. I really was only interested in myself, like 3-wing 2 energy. And so I
Well,
only
I
really
mean,
studied that. Yeah, I really studied that since I don't like bring it to other people or like preach it. I just wanted to know for myself. And now I'm like diving into 8 and I'm like freaked out about how 8 I am. And what I'm starting to realize when I'm reading this is like, I think I was always an 8. I think that I was manipulating my answers in a certain way, like with these
to be
personality
more
tests.
of
I think I
that
was answering
answer.
what I wanted to answer instead of the truth. Number one. And
Hmm.
number two, I think I was an unhealthy 8. And so it was manifesting different. Whereas, like, when I'm looking at the kind of how an unhealthy 8 scales up to a healthier 8, I'm like, that's the story of my life. Like, I'm like, when it like describes an unhealthy 8, I'm like, yeah, that was me at 20 to 22, like
Hmm.
precisely. And so I'm wondering if just like the work that I've been doing and like through 2020, where you're kind of like had a lot more time to ourselves for the first time, couldn't kind of distract myself with staying busy out in the world. I was sort of forced to deal with who I am.
Well,
Yeah.
Virgos had a rough year last year. Well, obviously, a lot of people had a rough year last year, but when I was looking into, the charts and all that stuff, and also like even like Chinese zodiac, so like last year was the year of the rat,
Right.
right? That should have been our year, okay? Because we're rat, right? Wait, or no, you're not rat. You're no. See,
Mm-mm.
I'm 84. I'm rat. Okay, so anyways, so last year was a pretty rough year in general, but I know Virgos felt a lot of it. Like I know a lot of my Virgo friends had like a lot of what is it? They just like what they thought was like reality, like switched it.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like
I
how they
was I was
perceive
looking it up,
things.
by the way. I'm a rabbit.
You're a rabbit? Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. I think my son's
I
a
had to
rabbit.
like quickly Google it while you were talking because I was curious.
Yeah. No, there's so like last year for sure, like it's so funny because I had gotten like a small reading done like last year in the beginning of the year. I was like, oh my God, I'm so excited. Like booty ball, like it's gonna be a great year, 2020. And this one woman, she was like, this is gonna be the worst year for you. And I was like, don't say that. Like, no, like it's gonna be a
Mm,
good year. She's like, no, you need to put your energy into good things because otherwise it's gonna be a really fucked up year. And it was a really fucked up year. Like she was dead ass on it. And I was like, wow,
yeah,
but it was more like a mental thing. I had to go through a lot of mental shit. Um, but no, but I think with last year especially, like it really brought things and everything into perspective. Like everything, the way
yeah,
that we perceived social media, the way that we perceived people, the way that we perceived what was going on. And like, I mean, like think about it. You and I, we both, when all this stuff was happening last year, we were pretty vocal on our
sure,
platforms about how we felt,
sure.
you know.
Again, because
And
I
I
don't care to hide how I feel about things.
Exactly. And I'm the same fucking way. I'm the same. Like, if I feel something about something, I'm going to say something,
Yeah, I'm not
you know?
interested in like the easy, like
Yeah.
it
And
just, yeah,
exactly. And I do feel like for me, last year was really hard because you saw a lot of people being silent on their platforms, not necessarily in our community, but like just in communities
well,
in general.
in
Like,
and everywhere, yeah, including people in our community. I mean, I think people are just scared of perception. They're scared to lose followers or whatever. It's just I could give a shit
exactly.
about that.
But I
Yeah.
also feel like when we were going through things like this, you have to be, I feel like people need to kind of show support, or not support, but they should vocalize it because like they said, the silence
Yeah.
is the same thing as being complicit to it all, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
I think it's
So
tricky though, because when you only post because you feel like you should instead of posting because you want to and it becomes performative,
exactly.
that's a whole other
Yeah.
thing. I think part of it though for people like us too is like the empath part of
Hmm.
me. Like I'll never understand what it's like to walk in the shoes of a person of color or of a black person in any year, nonetheless 2020. I'll never
Hmm.
understand what it feels like to be Filipina right now,
Hmm.
or to be an Asian American right now,
Right.
or any other year. The only thing I can do is try to pay attention and like feel for it in a sense.
Yes.
And that's not like I don't need to like put a performance on about it. I don't need to like, get on camera and cry and like make it about me. But if there's ways that I can be an ally and be supportive and be
Supportive.
helpful, like this morning I did a fundraiser for it. I've posted resources the last couple days for
Hmm.
like people who want to donate and but it's not about me. And I think that's something that I have a lot of trouble with when white people make it about themselves rather than the cause. But that's like a big
Yeah,
discussion.
I mean, bitch, you said it. You fucking hit the nail on the head, because at the end of the day, like, I think we're so it's just the generation in general. We're so used to making everything about us. Like we have a when we have platforms, when we have spotlights on us, when we're talking about our daily lives and what we're doing. So there's a disconnect when there's something going on and you're trying to show your support, but you end up talking about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's hard because I think some people don't understand how to remove
Mm,
themselves from the situation. You know what I mean? Like,
mm.
you know, um, the way I see it, if I can't put myself in their shoes, the only thing I can do, like you said, is just show support and give information.
And
Give
do
as much information you can.
actual stuff. Not
Exactly.
just like
Do things.
do things and not like just make it. I don't know. It's really tricky. I
Mhm.
understand that, but it's like there's a way to show support but also shut up too when it's time to shut up.
Mhm.
That's like the other part of it that's like really tricky.
Yes.
And it's hard. I get it. It's a challenging thing.
It's a challenging topic, and I know that some people are always gonna feel like I had conversations with my friends, when all this stuff was happening, and they were just like, I had some that were very vocal, like on their shit, very just,
Mhm.
and then I had some that just didn't know what to say, so they basically were like, I don't know what to do, and I told them, I said, you do what makes you feel comfortable. Like, you don't, just because like, some of us in this group is very vocal about it doesn't mean that you need to be just as vocal as us, because at the end of the day, like, if you don't understand it and whatever, I tell them, I was like, then just learn about it. There's stuff to learn about. Like, that's all you can do is learn about it, take some sort of action, maybe change your perspective and how you think about things. And the next time that you think about maybe making a joke about something, think about how that could affect somebody else. And that's you doing enough. That's you doing
Right.
what you can do. Because if you have no knowledge and you're slightly ignorant to it, the only thing that we can ask of you is to open your mind,
Right.
and
Right.
really think about what you say.
Right.
Because
Right.
what you say gets portrayed into other people, into younger children, into younger generations. What you portray,
Right.
what you're teaching is coming out that way.
Right.
So if you can change it yourself,
Not all allyship is public in nature, right? Like there's
exactly.
it's like how we talk to our kids about race, how, like, where we spend our money, where we cut off, if you're in a room where it's like all white people, as a white person, you're in a room of all white people or all your friends are white, like, shut shit down when something is said that's
Exactly.
like, there's ways of being an ally without like parading it down the street. So that's anyway, it's
Anyways,
2020. Yeah, 2020 was a really challenging year between COVID and isolation and the tension in the world and an election and politics and people dying, and I mean, it was just like a whirlwind. Like, it was nuts.
People, there's like conspiracy saying how like that year was like not a real year. Because I don't know if you heard that conspiracy, like when the ball dropped or something. There was like a thing saying like now we've entered 2020. So like last year was like a year that was just like, it wasn't a real year because it was so much shit with it. Trust me, it sounds really crazy, but like I was like reading into it and I was like, if this conspiracy was true, that'd be fucking crazy. It'd be something for like a fucking movie. But that's how people feel because it was so intense. The year itself was so intense.
I mean, obviously, for me, I don't necessarily buy that it wasn't real, but I understand that as a coping mechanism, in the sense. I also think like there's some, and I'm not trying to like it was a tragic year, but I also think with like tragedy, there's sometimes comes growth, and like it's been needed for a long time.
Yes,
I looked up on my phone because I wrote this down. God, I sound so corny right now when I read this, but
Not
I'm just gonna say it out
even.
loud. It says adversity always has a second chapter, which kind of shook me, because it's like, oh yeah, this bad shit that happens to us, like, yeah, it's like nobody wants it, like nobody's enjoying it, it's awful, but like it comes with something that happens next that is typically good in some ways. Like you were mentioning, like, shit, your 20s were a shit show, but that left you in a place in your 30s that like isn't, or whatever, like tragedy kind of creates growth, like discomfort creates growth.
Always.
And so I kind of like that mentality.
Yeah, there's no growth without transformation, and I definitely think that last year definitely like transformed like everything. You know what I mean? Like everyone's perceptions of what life was really like, it completely changed. I mean,
I think like a lot of us kind of like learn to appreciate things through 2020 that we never thought of before.
Exactly. Everything we took for granted, basically.
Yeah. It was like that like crazy shit that went down here in Texas a few weeks back with the random storm. Like, it was like the hardest week I've had in a really long time. It's hard to explain why, but it's like, it was really emotional and really difficult and I had it easy and it was hard on me. I don't think we've really even like scratched the surface as to kind of like how damaging it was for a lot of people and how kind of traumatic it was. And but yet,
I mean,
like,
you guys have to boil water
for like 2 weeks
to drink.
But it's like it's like being forced out of your home. It was like the same thing as like during a hurricane, Katrina or something like that. It's like when you're forced out of your home, kind of like finding whatever shelter you can, people walking down the streets, like picking up sticks to like try to stay warm enough not to like get hypothermia, and like people lined up for blocks just to try to get like a can of food. It was like went from a thriving first world country to a third world country overnight.
I know.
And it like messed with our brains here. Like it was like the idea that we're kind of safe and secure shifted really quickly. And it was hard on like that reality was really hard on a lot of people. And I'm lucky that like my house ended up still being okay because I like knew to turn my water off before the pipes froze and stuff. But like there's people whose financial lives are destroyed and like will have lasting implications. And of course, like everything else, these problems, much like COVID, much like everything else, seem to disproportionately damage the lower income populations. You know, like I have a house or blah, blah, blah. Like, what about people who lived in these apartment complexes that like flooded and like don't have anywhere to go
And the
don't
roof
have family?
collapsed.
Yeah, and their jobs have been shit because of COVID and they're already struggling. And like, it's just a big mess. But I also feel like empowered out of it.
I heard that a lot of, I mean, when all this stuff was happening, I obviously was paying attention to a lot of people that were talking about it, that were living in Texas. And then I'd seen a few times on people's stories about saying how like in the communities that do have money, their power never got turned off. And so one girl was saying how she, like, her friend lives close enough, like she's not necessarily well off, but her community was close enough to these richer communities. And because it was the same structure, her power never got turned off because their power never got turned off. And I was like, that's wild to me, you know, because if like that's the case, then it's like, okay, so they're just saving the power for that. But that's what I saw. And
yeah,
I was
you know, I can't speak universally on that specific comment. I do know people here who live in very wealthy and very not wealthy areas, and like it seemed sort of random. Like a lot of the wealthy people I knew did not have power. I'm not discrediting what you're saying. I think when you get the infrastructure things like fancier neighborhoods probably have like power lines buried underground because they're newer or whatever. Like I'm not totally disagreeing with that in theory. I didn't really see that for myself, but I do understand that the implications of those things were just hardest for people who like, you know, didn't have a lot of money, especially if they had damage done. And just in the way of like, I was lucky. I had kind of by total luck, I had gone to Costco like 2 days before and did a big grocery haul without even knowing there was a snowstorm coming. And like, you know, I have 2 coolers. I have a nice truck that has 4-wheel drive. Like, that's why I'm saying like, it's definitely hardest for people, you know, who don't have resources to like get through that kind of stuff. But anyway, like you learn out of it, I guess is what my point was. Like you kind of learn like how to deal with shit in adversity. And like, it was a really kind of crazy experience that I kind of came out feeling like almost a little bit more resilient and like stronger. I don't know. It's just interesting stuff. Like the way that these challenges kind of push us.
I don't think, you know, I mean, I'm in Southern California. Okay. And we don't deal with weather like that, obviously.
I mean, California has other things.
They have other shit, but you know, like where I live. So like, okay, where I live, I don't know if you've heard like the Cajon Pass, like where it's like really windy. Not Cajon Pass, but it's like it's the Santa Ana winds, basically. So like where I live, like it's crazy because that's more like north, like a little bit northern, whereas like I'm obviously more inland, but it's the same fucking wind. Like it's the same wind that goes to where I'm at. We get very, very, very high winds, like very high winds to the point where they turn off our power for days. And everyone that's around here has generators, so we have to eventually get a generator. We're gonna get one built into our ground because we're just like we're gonna do that. But I couldn't imagine having power for a week, no power, and it's freezing cold outside
in 6-degree weather and no water, no running toilets, no access to food.
You can't drive anywhere because it's snow. So you're stuck basically in this space where it's like freezing. You can't do, and you're like that.
You can't use the bathroom. You can't drink water. You can't get food. You can't go anywhere. You're just stuck.
And that's what I'm saying. That's what was like
to death.
I know, and that's why I was like it was crazy just to see that. And you know, people were saying, oh, no big deal. Like people were saying like, no big deal. Like we deal with this weather all the time in the north. And it's like, yeah, but you guys prepare for that weather. You guys know what to expect.
Yeah.
Okay. Texas didn't know. They're not
Yeah.
prepared for that. They don't
Like the
have fucking
pipes,
snow
I
like this.
came from a snowy city, and like the pipes
Yeah.
are insulated different. Everything's handled different when there's places made for snow. They have salt trucks, they have resources. It was just there. It was like it sounds, I don't know why people have an easier time connecting to this, but it would be like a crazy blizzard hitting Miami. Like there's
Exactly.
just
They wouldn't know
no,
what to do.
you wouldn't know. Like the houses are built here different. Like I used to do some like real
Yeah.
estate stuff, and like the
Yes, I know
way
that.
houses are built is actually constructed different in different regions of the country for different things. Like our houses here are built to like protect from heat, but there's no protections from cold at all. So it's like,
When was the last time it snowed and was like minus like 0 degrees out in Texas?
yeah, it was a freak event that hasn't happened in 70 years or 50 years or something, like,
Yeah.
but yeah, it was like a crazy time, but out of it you kind of like come out, I think it's like you just kind of come out of those things feeling like grateful in a different way, which is what made me think of it when we were talking about 2020, is like you learn a sense of gratitude for the things you do have, like a hot shower. And like, I know it sounds silly to say, but like so many people I would talk to, like even before they wanted a fresh meal, they were like, I just want a hot shower because it's been like 6 days of freezing cold with no water. Like I just want a toilet to run where you're not using snow to melt in your bathtub to pour into your toilet to flush it. Like I just want a hot shower. Like the way that your brain rewires is fascinating. And like when you like, that's the thing, that's the second chapter that comes from adversity, is like a new sense of positivity around like what you do have. So
I agree.
yeah, it's interesting. This was a weird week, and I don't know. I feel as much as I can. I feel for, any Asian Americans that are facing this. It's just like, it's just horrible.
It's tough, like I've touched in with a few people, and obviously, like on my personal page, I have like on my old Instagram, I have like a lot more, like my friends are on there. So, and it's just a huge Asian community, like whether it's Filipinos, like Koreans, like everyone's feeling this, because at the end of the day, like they're just doing it just to do it. There's no reason. Like I was talking to one of my girlfriends, and she's half Asian, and I'm just like seeing, it's just like, imagine if like my dad, or imagine if her mom were just out and someone came up behind him and just fucking knocked him on the back of the head, and they went fucking falling in their face, and they get like, cracked in their head for no reason. And I think that's the thing, is that like that's what's happening right now, especially in like since the last year. And I don't know.
That's why it's terrorism, because it's
yes, that's exactly what it is.
Terrorize. Like it's not just violence, it's terrorism.
Yes,
it's white terrorism. I saw a meme that was like, why are we calling this Stop Asian Hate? How about Stop White Terrorism?
Okay.
Like it's not. This isn't something that the Asian community needs to fix. Like this is an issue of white terrorism in this country, and it's just destroying us.
It's been so immense since like the last year, and it really does, like the fact that people aren't just like, why is this even allowed? I mean, we had I my husband is very vocal about how he feels about, especially since last year, to the point where he gets very angry. Like I have to be like, calm down. Like he's the type of person that's like fucking fighting with people about how he feels about this, because he's so just like, he doesn't understand. And my husband, he's half white and half Hispanic, but he's very white passing. Everyone thinks he's just white, and
I never
he doesn't understand, because yeah, he's like that. So, but he's married to a Filipino woman. He's married, and my whole family is very blended. Like we have a huge family, and he comes from a huge family as well. And he just doesn't understand. He's just like, why are people so there's so much hatred for this. Like he doesn't understand
Mm.
it. And I'm telling you, I was like, babe, because like it's literally always been there. It's just now everyone's more vocal about it because they feel like they could be vocal about it. They feel like they felt confident enough because they had somebody, a president behind them, to basically allow them to show
Correct.
their true hatred, their true colors for people. And
Right.
that's what's happening. It was always there. They always felt some sort of way. All those little things. But
They've
now
been
they
given
just
a voice and a kind of like acknowledgement that it's okay to be this way. It's
yes.
like it's become more bold,
Yeah,
but it's
exactly.
definitely always been there. And this is why like words matter. Like even before, I didn't really know that it was going to manifest itself this intensely, but every time I would hear, I don't even use his name, but that our last president say
Mm-hmm.
kung
I don't like saying
fu or
either.
China virus, like something like sank in my stomach. So I'm just like, this is a problem.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly what it is because
Like words matter.
literally, I mean, they say that it's because of last year has been immense.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
last year especially, and
Yeah.
it's like the thing is that when things happen, people want to find a scapegoat. They don't want to just accept that this happened because of this. They turn all their anger, and if it's geared towards a specific thing, then they can focus all that. And I think since last year, they've they basically made it seem as if like this was the cause, this was the reason. So now it's like, okay, this whole community. But this has been time and time again. I mean, we can go on about this, but I mean, like the fucking I mean, there's so many other races that have dealt with stuff from these communities because everything gets focused on them. And it's like, we're not the reason for this. You didn't do this. This didn't happen because of us, but it's like they just gear all their hate towards that. And then they just start pointing the finger and start being like, you're the reason, you're the reason, you're the reason, you're the reason. We can go back to we can go back to like 9/11 when all the people were dealing with fucking all the,
Yeah.
you had
Middle Eastern, anti-Arab.
Muslim,
Yeah.
anti-Muslim.
Mm-hmm.
And in the beginning of his, before his presidency, you had a lot of Hispanics, a lot of Latinos, because they were saying, oh, you guys are rapists, you're this, you're this.
Yeah.
So it's like everything just gets pointed, and you have all these people just being like, yeah, we hate you. So we're going to hate you, and we're going to like completely show our hatred towards you. And right now, the Asian community is really feeling it. And
And
it's
it is
fucked
a
up.
result. It's exactly what you said, though. It's a result of anger. And like we've been discussing, 2020 messed with our heads for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, I understand why people are sad and angry and looking for answers and hurting. But the Asian Americans didn't do this to you, honey.
No, they did not.
Mm-mm.
No, they did not. I mean,
Latinos didn't take your job. You know what I'm saying? Like these like you said, like it's just not the right place for that anger. But
no.
it doesn't help when our leadership, like nobody shut that shit down. Like our leadership not only encouraged but really facilitated the growth of this rhetoric being okay. And
Yes, I agree.
hopefully with the vocal outcry that's building up and kind of gaining momentum right now, it improves, but it might take some time.
It's yeah. I think
Yeah.
the way that, like you said, it's going to take some time because the way that things were left, and now we're dealing
Yeah.
with all this, and then
Yeah.
you still have people that are just like, I
Well,
saw
and
people that are like, well, why, like one person commented like, it shouldn't be a race thing. Like, were you upset when other races like dealt with like, these things? And I'm like, yes, I was. Yes,
yes, I
I was.
was.
If you know who I am and if you've been following me for a while, yes, I was. And I
No,
vocalized.
the comments are out of control. I had to stop
They're
reading
just
them
like it's
yesterday.
just yeah. We don't
It's
want
out
to we
of
don't want to get
control.
into that. That's all that
Yeah,
negativity.
yeah. Like
But,
it's so, and I'm starting to absorb it, and like it's just it's
let's
not,
shut it
and
down.
I want to bring, let's take the conversation but put a positive spin on it. So let's talk
Yes.
about a positive part of the Asian community that I have noticed in keto. Let's talk about Filipino, because it
Oh
is
my
like this, like,
god.
okay, it's like it's not funny to me, haha, but it's just so funny to me that it's like this very specific niche, like community, and it's strong and it's powerful
Yeah.
and it's yummy and it's all the good things. Like, where did that even come from? Because it's like, it's not necessarily like keto and Filipino food necessarily align in a different way than, like, say, keto and Japanese. Like, it's easier to be keto when you're a Filipino versus being Korean or anything. So it's like,
Right.
what's up with that? It's like there's this like little crowd that is Filipino strong, and I'm
I
kind of
love
curious
it.
as
I
a
love it.
Filipino, like,
Yeah,
let's
I
talk
totally.
about that and
Okay, so
bring some awareness, because I love it.
yeah.
I'm all about it.
Okay, so basically, like I haven't made a filo keto recipe in a while, just because like if I eat Filipino food, I'm just gonna eat it. But a few years ago, this girl wanted me to, when people do like kind of challenges and stuff.
Yeah.
So she was like, "Oh, we're gonna do a challenge. We're gonna do food from our culture, but we're gonna make it keto." I was like, "Cool." So I was like, "Well, I'm Filipino, so I'll make keto food, Filipino food." And then I started really divulging into it, because when you think of Filipino food, you think of like all this stuff like lumpia, like you think of noodles, you think of all this stuff. And you're just like, well, how can I make that keto? And it really can be done, you know? But it's like you have to really analyze it and try to like make it the best and like really look at the flavors. And it's so funny because when you really look at Filipino food as a whole, like what it is, it's very keto.
It is.
The only thing that's not keto is rice. Like the ingredients in Filipino food are very clean. Like if you're looking at like true Filipino food, it's very clean. Like the food, like they really just focus on like flavors. What is it? Vinegar. It's like they love like all that stuff, and it's not a lot of sugar really. Like when you think of like the really sugary, like intense food, that's like more like it's like
Thai.
Americanized, like more like
Yeah, it's more Americanized. Yeah.
because you
Like
think of the Philippines, it's
even
heavy
Chinese
Americanized.
food, being sweet is more American. It's not that sweet
Yes,
in China. Thai
yes,
cuisine is definitely in Thailand very sweet. But I mean, there are sweetened sauces and dips
yes,
and things that are like,
yes.
obviously there are in Filipino food too, but you're right.
But
Like,
you can
it's
mix those with other things. But
right.
like I said, like when I was looking at really intense, I mean, I'll give you an example. Adobo. Adobo is literally
Soy sauce,
vinegar.
vinegar, garlic, bay leaf, pepper.
That's it.
Right.
Easy.
Right.
That's it. You have it with rice or whatever, or you can have it with clay rice. And
Right.
that's pretty much what it is. I'm like, I didn't really make it keto. It's keto in itself. Like you're just switching out liquid aminos for soy sauce if you really
Yeah.
want to be specific. But that's what it is. When you have like sinigang, it's just fucking it's just like it's like a tamarind base, very
Right.
keto. You have vinegar or you have all this stuff. It's easy. And I think people's perception is that like, oh, you think of like all like the crazy sugary stuff. And then there is that stuff and it's delicious and it can be done because now we have so much stuff. But basically, it became a thing where I was like, let's create Filipino food. And I was doing it myself. And my day to do the challenge was on Friday. So I was like, perfect, Filipino Friday. And then I started doing it. And then I had a group of girls that were like, oh, I want to start. They started making dishes too. So it was kind of like we kind of created this like little
Wait,
group.
hold on. I gotta cut you off. Are you telling me that you started Filipino Friday?
Yeah.
Stop.
I'm not even fucking around.
I, I have the very
I'm not
founder
fucking around.
in the
I am
room.
not. No.
I
No,
didn't even know.
yeah.
I didn't know that when I like asked you this question.
Yeah. Because, okay, so like I said, like this was like a few years ago when I first started doing keto
Oh
and I was
shit.
doing, and it was on a Friday. So I said, so I called it Filipino Fridays. I'm really good at like naming things. So I was like, oh, let's just call it that.
It's not your
So
first time at the social media rodeo. We
I
know.
know how to name a few things. So I started doing it, and people were like, "Oh, I want to do it too." I'm like, "Make whatever." So we all started kind of like vibing off each other and throwing out ideas. And a lot of times we would like be in this group and being like, "Oh, I'm gonna make this week. I'm gonna make this." So we would get excited about making stuff because at the end of the day, Filipino food is like it's love to us. Okay, when we
Mhm.
present you a plate of food, if you go into any Filipino household, if they present you with food, it's they're giving you their love and affection. They said, "Here,
Preach.
eat this,
Yes.
have some
Hmm.
more." And if you enjoy it, that's all they could ask for. Like when you come into my parents' house, if my dad, so like I'll get a little off base, but my dad, like he's obsessed with my husband. Like they're like BFFs. Okay. So when we come over, if he knows that Kevin's coming over, my dad makes specific food just for him. Not for me. It's not for me. It's not for anybody else. That's Kevin's. That's for Kevin. No. Don't. That's for Kevin. And we do these things of love. We provide food. I know I hate it, but we do these things of love. So that's why for us, when we want to share our cuisine with people, it's like, we want to show you who we are, what kind of food we grew up on, because it means so much of us. This is us in a nutshell. The food that we eat, the culture that we are, there's so much to it. So we got excited to share all this type of different dishes. Because every dish has a memory. It's not just like, this is really good. No, every dish that we created had a memory connected to it. Yeah. So that's kind of where that came from. And then it just kind of divulged itself. There's a lot of Filipinos that do keto, and they were like, we can make this keto. I'm like, come on now. Yes, you can. It's not that hard. There's things you can play around with. I mean, there are some things that are really difficult to make keto, like pandesal. There's a dish. So one of my girlfriends makes pandesal, but like, I love a good fluffy piece of bread, pandesal. Yeah. You know,
but so all the breads, not just keto. Like, all the breads are hard.
Yes. But this one's like a little tricky, because we've tried it several times. I'm like, I don't think it's gonna work. So right. I'll remember it. You know, I'll get it on my own.
And you can just eat it when you want to eat the real thing, like.
Exactly. But yeah, I mean, a lot of things can be done. I mean, like noodles, you can do like pancit, but you can do it with like, you know, shirataki noodles. It can get done. The flavor's there. You know, there's so much.
I mean, pork belly, like lechon, like it's already keto, so
it's a wrap.
Yeah.
It's a wrap with that. Like, it's easy done. And you can have it. It's a fish, like all the good fishes that like my dad makes. I'm like, you can just put like a different sauce on that, put like allulose in it, and then it's a wrap. It's still good. You have it siksig. Siksig is it's like traditionally it's like the head of the pig. So you just chop the whole head up, and then you serve that with like chilies, you know, vinegar. You eat it like it's like a I don't know if you have
me hungry. We gotta stop.
I know. But like as I'm saying, it's Filipino food right now is like such on the rise in the last few years.
It's hot. Like, forget about like on the keto side, in the culinary world, Filipino food is hot right now.
Yes,
big time.
And
Kamayan dinners, like Kamayan pop-ups, are like one of the hottest things in the food world right now.
Yes, and they're so fucking fun.
Yeah.
Who doesn't want to sit on next to a huge table with like a fucking buttload of banana leaves and all this food, and all you're doing
30
is like
different dishes. Yeah, we both did the same thing.
Your hands, you know, like that might be kind of hard to do now, but like that, it's the thing is that it creates an environment, it creates an ambiance, it creates, and just like at any other Filipino household, like it's family, like, so that's what they create.
Right.
So
yeah, well, and that's kind of like the community part, I think, is what has worked in keto, because it's like there's a home for Filipino people within keto that's very specific, and I think it's really cool. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just so it like on the surface it seems random, but it's not when you dive in. It's not. Yeah.
Think about it. You come into your food, and like I'd seen this on something. What was it? Some person, like, these are the misperceptions of keto, right? You have, and I saw this on Twitter, and someone saying like keto food is diminishing cultural's food because they really just want to give you white food. And I was like, and I saw that, and I'm like, you obviously don't know anything about, yeah. Trust me, when I saw that, they were basically saying that like if you do keto, then you're not supporting your own culture or some bullshit, right? And so I was kind of like, that's completely false and really wrong, and you're completely spinning the idea that it has to do with this. It doesn't. What it does is that it just allows you to change your process of how you think and you approach things. So like you can still have your culture's food. You just are kind of like getting rid of like the rice, you know, subbing with something else. Maybe have more like this. And that's why I was kind of like, you can have Filipino food. You can still have the stuff that you love. You just don't need to eat all the other stuff that comes with it, and you can edit it to yourself. And I think that's what was important about Filipino is like you have this huge community that we relied on heavy rice, noodles, like just like other Asian communities, we had all this stuff. But if you think about a lot of our food, it's all it's a melting pot of shit. Like there's Spanish influences, Japanese influences, there's all these influences in Filipino food. So you're really breaking it down, being like, okay, what, I can't have this, so how can I sub it out, or what can I have with it? And you're really just like making your own. And I think that's what was really important about the Filipino community, because they're allowing themselves to have food of their culture. They're not depleting it, they're not getting rid of it, but they're able to still have this lifestyle that they want to have. And that's what was important. And think about it too. A lot of people in the Filipino community, they have high blood pressure, they have diabetes. I mean, they have a lot of issues going on, and so a lot of times they have to really change their diet. And they're like, "How can I give up rice?" It's like, you can. It can be done. Let's get through it. Let's show you how it can be done. And that's kind of the beauty of that in the Filipino community, keto community, you know. So
I love
it
it.
was nice.
I love it. That's so cool. I didn't actually know that that you were kind of an early influence on the growth of the kind of hashtag Filipino movement, which is really cool.
It was so
and
funny
it's a
because
community. I know you don't want to take credit in general.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
But I was more like, let's just bring awareness to it. Let's have fun with it. Like, just like I remember we were talking before, I said, I like to have fun with my food. I like to have fun with the way that I approach things. So why not have fun with Filipino food? Why not continue this to allow this in your life and have fun with it and figure out the best way to do it? Like, you know, and that's basically what it was.
So let's dive into that, because it's one of the things that I really love about you. We talked about this a little bit in our lost recording the first time, but what's cool about this conversation is that we have no overlap. This is a totally different conversation than we had before.
Yes, it is.
So much fun with you as always. And so let's speak on fun, because I think that you just kind of talked about, like, sometimes you have to make substitutions to make things work. You want to make your food fun. You want to make your account fun, which you do, because you do a lot that isn't just food on your account. Like, you just have a lot of like humor and lifestyle and all kinds of stuff, like your nails, like you name it. Like, you're just, this is me, this is my life, like, you know, and have a lot of fun with that. With the food specifically though, I know you just mentioned that like kind of silly Twitter comment. Do you feel like both in and out of the Filipino community, like even beyond that, like, do you get a lot of keto police? Do you get a lot of like any more? Because I think there was like a moment where that was like a big issue. It seems to be kind of leveling out, but I don't know, like a lot of your food is so sexy and so food porn, and has, you know, keto wraps and keto bread and like
sandwiches
things that when I post that or talk about it in my stories, people are like, that's not clean. And like, I don't know. It's just like, can people live?
Yeah. You know what? It's so funny is that I really think it's like people that follow me, like I have followers that like literally know, like they follow me and they like know exactly what I'm portraying. And so like, they know, like, I don't give a shit. Like, I'm kind of dirty, you know? And so I don't really get a lot of keto police. Maybe in the beginning. I think it depends too if like my posts get shared on different platforms. So if I post like something and you know, another keto Bible or another, you know, page reposts it, obviously those people, I mean, I get shit saying, ew, those nails are disgusting, or ew, pasta's not keto, or ew, this. And it's like, those people don't know who I am. And so they kind of just are looking at it from that perspective. But I don't really get much people on my page. Maybe I think in the very beginning I did, because I was much more of like a cleaner keto. So I had a lot of cleaner followers. So anytime I would post like anything, whether it be like fruit or like, I think.
I see. As you transitioned around.
As I transitioned. So yeah. So I think I posted something with like carrots once. So like, carrots aren't keto. And I was like, carrots can be fucking keto. It's fine. As long as you're not eating a fucking butt. You're not sitting there eating a whole bag of them, you know, just a little bit is okay. But I haven't really experienced as much. And you know, it's cool. Like, I mean, knock on wood or whatever. I mean, my people that follow me are pretty nice, are pretty good. Yeah. I mean, I get an occasional rude person here once and there, and I just think that they don't follow me. They're just like, just talking shit just to talk shit. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. I mean, that's actually, I have the exact same experience. I rarely get people who are like not nice who like actually follow me. But if something goes beyond, has like a little viral moment, hits explore, gets reshared, oh, it's on. It's like crazy. So I definitely understand what you mean. And part of that though is like, as content creators, I'm not going to use the I word yet. As content creators, we have to kind of build and like just be ourselves and build an authentic community that is there, that wants to be there.
Yeah.
And like, even when we were and I'm not going back to that space, but even when we were talking about 21, like, if y'all don't like my politics, like, that's cool. This community may not be for you. And like,
Exactly.
I'm okay with that. And it goes the same thing with my food. Like, my food is not, first of all, I don't really think like clean, dirty, lazy, any of those labels really help anyone. Cause like, I can be dirty one day and then I'm sparkly clean the next, and then I'm carnivore
exactly
after that. And it's like, okay. You know, so I don't really think those labels are particularly helpful. In fact, I think they can be damaging for people who are like new to keto and are like, oh,
yes, I agree.
I gotta find, like, I gotta be this one thing. And
it's so, there's so much information when you first come into keto, like you don't. And that was the one thing when people always say like, what do I just want to do it right. I just want to make sure that I'm doing it perfect and right. Because when you're doing something for weight loss, you want to make sure that you're doing everything you can so that you succeed. So they come into this lifestyle thinking that they need to do everything. Like they're like, okay, I'm going to follow Chef Michael. He's great. He's lost his weight. I'm going to follow every single thing that he's done. Now, granted, it might not work for them, you know, and they might be like, hey, you know, I did everything that you did. Why am I not losing weight? Well, there could be a lot of reasons, but also another main reason is because you're you. You are not me. You do things differently. So your body could be affected differently. Maybe you need to cut this out. I think that's the misperception about when you have content creators or influencers that promote like weight loss. You know what I'm saying? Not like we're sitting here going like, I lost this weight. But in reality, when you think of keto is more of just like, we're changing our eating habits. We're changing our lifestyles to be healthier, but also a significant factor is weight loss in it. So people follow us because they want to change their life. They want to change their life. They want to do better. They want to lose weight. They want to figure out how to eat better for them. So that's what they look to us for. But at the end of the day, we're human and we do things differently. So I always tell people, I said, look, like, if you're following me to do this, like, I can give you tips, I can give you tricks, I can give you food examples of what I create.
What worked for me
doesn't mean it won't work for you. You might not work for me. You know, work for you, whatever. So I always tell them that. I give them that warning. I said, this may not work for you. This is what worked for me. Here are my tips. But if you feel like this may not work, then please, by all means, edit it. Do your own version. That's what you need to do at the end of the day.
Right.
You have to do it.
And that's why, like, I think there's so many different approaches to keto, in the sense, like, what are you trying to accomplish? If you're trying to like lose weight in 30 days, that's very different than maybe like the way that you are eating today, where like, this is just your life and you're not like, understanding your goal and like what you're trying to accomplish and then making decisions around that is really important. Like some of the things that I eat, like a big cast iron skillet, like covered in cheese and gooey things and all the cream and all that good stuff, and someone's like, oh my god, like, wait, is this recipe really 500 calories a serving? I'm like, yeah. It is. And like I'll eat 3 servings. Watch me. Like, that's
that cookie that I made. You know that cookie that I made?
Yeah.
That big one, the
little fat one. Yeah.
Yes. So everyone's like, so what are the macros? And I was like, I'm gonna just tell you right now, one cookie is about 460 calories. It's like however many grams of fat. It's only 6 net carbs, but it is a bitch. Like, and I'm telling people, I'm like, you can half this, like, you can do it. But like, I'm doing it for myself. I'm enjoying it. So if you're on a more of a deficit and you're doing your own version of keto, like, maybe you don't want to do that whole recipe, like, or you want to half it. But like, your version of keto is completely different as like someone that's like, oh, I don't eat dairy. I can't have dairy. It's like, well, you might want to edit my recipe then a little bit, you know?
Well, and that's why I think that this, like, the policing of keto and the labeling of keto and like the shame around keto, it's kind of like, what was the point of coming to this space? Because what the whole point of keto is like getting a healthy relationship with food while getting healthy. Like,
I agree 100%.
What's the point of coming in and then, like, I had enough shame in the real world around, like, you know, I don't know. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like, I just don't understand keto people who set this tone. Like, I've accidentally said some things in like a Facebook group, like a local Facebook group, and was just like torn apart because I'm like, oh, a little bit of butternut squash helps thicken a soup, and that's not keto. I'm like,
Facebook's crazy.
a quarter cup of butternut squash in a whole pot of soup, and we're talking butternut squash. All right, go ahead and eat your Quest bar. I'm going to use
Okay.
a quarter cup of butternut squash. Like, get off me. And also
Okay.
rethink whatever the hell it is you're talking about. If you think carrots and butternut squash and sweet potato are the enemy,
Are bad.
right? Like, you need to just like take a step back
I
and
mean,
evaluate that. And this policing of keto food and this is keto in this column and this is not keto in that column is so unproductive, which is why I get mad. I'm like, this is why I'm very like, fuck the police. Like, fuck the keto police.
Like, don't tell me what I need to.
Like, yeah, it's just
You're
like,
just like, well, look, it's like, don't tell me what is right and what's wrong, because at the end of the day, this is what works for me. I think it's just like in any scenario. It's like if this is what works for you, and you, like you said, if you want to have some carrots, if you want to have a fucking few fruits, people's like, well, I thought you can't have fruit on keto. Isn't it sugar? It's like, yeah, I mean, you don't want to have a lot of it. Everything,
right.
I think people need to understand is that like everything can be done in moderation. At the end
Yeah.
of the day, if you are trying to build a better relationship with food, whatever kind of foods you have need to be eaten in moderation.
Yes.
That is the biggest problem in most communities that people don't understand. Like, yeah, granted, if I want to be like, hey, this weekend I really want to have a piece of cake. Okay, a piece of cake with real sugar.
Right.
I should be able to be like, look, like I'm going to have things in moderation, because at the end of the day, we're not trying to be keto for the rest of our lives. We're trying to be ourselves and not have to have this like guilt that comes with eating food. So if you build a better relationship with realizing like, look, I can still eat these things as long as I eat it in moderation and not feel shit for the next day, it should be fine.
And
that
not
is
feel
the
like you
mentality
can't share it with your community, and not feel like you can't post
Exactly.
it or share it without getting attacked. Like,
Mhm.
that is not community. And I think it just sours the community. I also think when, like, I try to think about it like, oh, and let me just preface this by saying, like, again, the goals matter. Like, if you're somebody who's
Yes.
doing keto for medical reasons, your goals are going to look really different than somebody in just like maintenance, whatever. So like, goals matter with keto. But what I was going to say is like, imagine if you're finally brave enough to say like, I'm going to take care of myself. I'm going to lose some weight. I'm going to see what's up with this keto thing. And then you come in here into this like keto community, and you're like, join a Facebook group in your city or whatever it may be. And then you're just like attacked.
And they're rude.
And they're rude.
Facebook is
It's like,
fucking rude.
this is
Let
why
me
people
say
think
that.
keto people, this is why people think keto people are crazy. I'm like convinced of it, that like people think keto people are nuts, because like it's like this mentality of like, you're all, in order to be successful in keto, you have to be 100% perfect, super clean, and if you're dirty, it's dangerous and it's unhealthy and it's lazy, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, this makes no sense. Just eat one keto dinner a night. Feed your kids one keto dinner a night. You're going to feel that much better. Like, stop looking at it as this like all or nothing diet culture, crash diet, willpower based structure, because that shit doesn't work. Willpower doesn't work. Willpower works for 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks. At some point, willpower doesn't work. So like, then what?
Yeah. I think it's so funny because people were like, when I first started doing it, everyone was like, so do you cheat? I was like, well, I don't call it cheats. I just call it like allowing myself to indulge a little bit.
Yeah, just eat.
And they're like, so what happens when you cheat? And it's like, I just go back to eating normal. Like, it's not in the very beginning when I first started doing, when I first cheated, when I first allowed myself to eat something, I felt so much guilt. I was just like, oh my God. And because I didn't know. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I eat that. And I remember people in my comments were just like, you don't have to feel bad for eating that. Like, you can just go on about. And then I realized, and I was like, it's a mental thing. We're coming from this culture. We're coming from, thinking that like, if we eat badly, that it's just so bad, and that we have to, we feel shame for it. And we really have to change our perspective, because at the end of the day, we should just be able to enjoy life. We should be able to enjoy a meal, not feel bad for it, and then keep it moving. And then the next day, that's why I tell people, I said, If you want to have a cheap meal, if you want to go out to dinner and have a great, nice dinner and have a plate of pasta with your significant other and, enjoy this, do it. Do by all means, go for it. Enjoy it. Don't fucking make any type of, apologies for it. Enjoy it. And then guess what? The next day, have your keto meal.
Yeah.
Have your whatever. Enjoy it, because those are the moments that are important when you're in this, when you transition from being very like in this lifestyle. So like when people lose the weight and then guess what? They're in maintenance mode. What do they do then? How do they act? That's the real testament after being in this community, is that like you can lose the weight in like 8 months, but then how do you maintain it for 3 years, 4
10
years, 10 years?
Yeah,
exactly.
right.
You have to think, you can't always be 100% keto.
And the maintenance piece is about the healthy relationship with food. It's about, like you said, like knowing moderation, knowing catching yourself when you're emotionally eating, binge eating. Then you bring these other factors that start to come together. And it's not just about like this perfect thing. It's like, I'm not going to go the rest of my life without eating like, X, Y, and Z foods. Like, I'm not going to go the rest of my life going to Mexico and not eating a taco or going, like it's just, it's not going to happen. So like, why don't we just find ways of like working on that and finding healthy thing? I think the shame is a problem, and it's definitely like a topic that I get really fired up about, if you can't tell, because I just think it's so unproductive and ends up like, at the end of the day, I'd rather people be 10% healthier than like be perfectly keto for 2 weeks and then run away because they're like, oh, this is too hard. And then go back to like McDonald's and cake every night. Like, there are ways of making this work that are sustainable, that are happy and healthy, like healthy up here and healthy for the mind. And I do think the tone has changed a little bit. Like, the conversation's changed. I think the keto police have somewhat died down. However, now there's this new labeling thing that drives me a little nuts. With
my God, with like, I saw something the other day. Someone was like, I saw something on something on like a person's story, or it was like a repost something, and they're like, oh, I just had this really delicious yogurt. Too bad it has sucralose, and I just did this, and it's like, okay. Like, you're not eating a bag full of sucralose. You're having sucralose. Did it affect you? Did you gain like 5 pounds from it? Like, I think if you're smart about what you want to eat and you watch it, and if your body, like, say for example, if your body really reacts to maltodextrin and like to the point where you're like, this is not good for me, then obviously you're going to be like, I can't have it. It has maltodextrin. Like, my body reacts to it. I can't have it. But some people are just like, ew, I would never get that product. It's got this. Like, ugh, like, how could you eat that? That's so dirty. Why would you promote a product that has this? Or why would you talk about it? It's like, because I like it. I like this product. This shit doesn't do anything to me. I can still have this and be fine. Why is that so difficult for you to understand that I can still have this product?
Right.
And if you can't, then don't eat it.
Yeah.
There's so much.
And maybe 3 years down the line, you're like, I'll work, like everybody can just have their own journey. And what you said about the yogurt, I thought was interesting, because it's like, oh my God, a yogurt that has sucralose. Well, or like shaming somebody for drinking a Diet Coke. I'm like, look, if is drinking a can of Diet Coke good for you every day? That's a decision you can make for yourself. But if that Diet Coke got you off of the regular Coke, can we just applaud that moment? Can we applaud that they made that they had a sucralose-based sugar-free yogurt instead of the decision to have Yoplait today? And like acknowledge that, and just like recognize that like any step in the right direction is just that. It's a step in the right direction. Like, get off of it. Like, just like
it's I totally agree with you with this whole like labeling thing, because like I've been seeing an influx of it lately. Like you just said, keto police is kind of down. Now everyone's just talking about all these labels, and the reason being is because the keto community, the amount of products that we have is immense now in comparison to like a few years ago. We barely had shit, so like you really could like look at stuff, whereas like now it's just like, I mean, you have all the subscription boxes that come with like 10 to 12 snacks in there. You're trying all these things. Companies are literally producing every single, like all the time, keto stuff. And it becomes like an influx, but it's just, there's so much stuff, you don't really know what to choose. And everyone's trying things. I mean, people can have like their own cereal. Anyways, there's going to be products that have dirtier ingredients, whether it be like specific things you can't have or whatnot. It's what you choose to have in your daily regimen. If you
Mm-hmm.
decide like, look, like I want to have this yogurt, it might have sucralose, you know, it might have that, but I enjoy it and I'm going to have that instead of this. And I just think that if people are just like, ew, 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 it's like, just get over yourself. Get over yourself. Like,
Yeah,
if you
yeah.
don't want
It's
it, then you don't want it.
then you don't want it, and if you want it, go for it. Like 3 years in, sure. I think my keto now is cleaner than it was at the beginning. For other people, they might start clean and end up being more loose later for maintenance.
That's
Let
me.
let like, and I'm kind of the opposite. I was super like kind of just anything that wasn't sugar or carbs. Like I'll take any of the substitutes. I had all the snacks. I had the keto crates and all those things in the beginning. Now I'm like
Yeah.
just whole food based, no packaged goods, no real keto desserts unless I make it. That's me though. But I still feel very firmly that it's not productive to set this tone of like, this is why I don't even
No.
like the word dirty keto or lazy keto. To me, the words dirty and lazy are insulting and like kind of make it sound like you're doing something wrong.
Like
And I'm like,
you're not doing it
yeah,
the
if
right way.
right, like you're not as elevated as those of us that do whole foods only clean keto. Like you're below us in a certain sense, and I'm just over it. And I think that's kind of the new keto police.
It's
And I
elitist.
yeah, it is a little bit. And I'm just I think it's important to have this like discussion because I'm like, if you are coming from eating a standard American diet with, cereal and a sandwich and pasta and dessert every day, and then you come to keto and like you eat yogurt with sucralose, like I just want to applaud you, not shame
Mm-hmm.
you.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's definitely like the new keto police. I think the conversation is changing around like whole ingredients to some extent, like carrots a couple of years ago, things like that were like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And now I think that there's still people like that, especially in Facebook groups.
Oh,
There's
I
still people like that.
refuse to go on
Yeah, yeah,
Facebook groups because I remember one time I was like on one Facebook group and I posted like, you know, the side by side, and I kid you not, I had like 500 comments of people basically berating me, saying that I was fake, I was fraudulent, that I wasn't who I was. I had people in my inbox, my messengers, like saying like, why would you post like whose real pictures is it was and I'm just like, this is crazy to me that people are so
yeah,
determined to tear people down instead of congratulating them on their journey, that they're so like, this can't be true. I would rather believe that you didn't do like, this is not you, than to being like, congratulations. So I
yeah,
refuse to go
yeah.
into Facebook groups because they approach everything with negativity to start with. It's never congratulate, like that's just the community it is for some fucking reason. But I
Yeah.
want to touch back what you said. So I think one of the reasons why too some people keto police specific people, when you have, they say, oh, you know, influencers and content creators and stuff like that, they have this responsibility obviously to give correct information. So you get hit more as an influencer because people look to you for correct information. So if you give information that's like, well, why would you say that? That's wrong. Like, why would you do that? Why would you promote this? And it's like, people need to understand is that like, we're not put on a pedestal, but no one's on a pedestal. We choose things that we enjoy. This is what works for us. This is what we're promoting. If you do not like it, please find somebody else that does do that, because the people that do follow me relate to me in this sense. This is what they relate to. They see the things that I like. They enjoy it. Like, they're on their own journey. If it helps them, it helps them. But then there are people that are just like, well, why would you promote this? This is this. And it's just like, because this is what I enjoy. And I didn't realize that just because you have a platform, you need to be like, perfect. Like, that's not the case. Like, I don't understand that. Like, I think people get so like, what's the term? They just want to find something wrong with somebody. Like, they say,
Yeah.
oh, you know, Chef Michael, he's so successful and he's doing this, but he's promoting this. Like, why would he do that? He should be promoting this and this and that because that's his platform. It's like, well, who do you decide what I talk about, what I like enjoy? If I
Yeah.
enjoy this, like, why does that matter to you? If you don't like it, then you can
Right.
please
Right.
sort yourself out. But I've noticed that. I've noticed people like are just like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, why would they promote that?
I
It's like,
agree. And that's definitely the trap because I think we were talking about this before. Like, I don't think we had necessarily planned to be like quote unquote influencers. And it's kind of like, be careful what you wish for because there's a double edged sword with it.
yes, there
Um,
is.
we're just who we are. So it's not necessarily going to work for everybody. I hope that there's people that I've really impacted positively. But I'm sure there's a lot of people that I haven't, or like that have left because I wasn't for them. And I'm not like mad at that. I think it's just a question of like respect. Like,
Mhm.
if you're not interested in a tattooed Filipino mama with long nails, putting food pouring out with cheese pulls and
Okay.
sexy sandwiches, like,
Okay.
good for you. If you're not into a big gay Jewish chef that's gonna be like,
Okay.
that's cool. It's fine. We hope that we can provide some value because of our journeys and because of what we're passionate about. But if it's not, there's no reason to be mean about it.
Exactly. You don't need to
Um,
vote. That's the problem I feel like with social media, is that if they don't like something, they will vocalize it, why they don't like it, and they will tell you to your face. And look, back in my 20s, I used to be much more vocal about the things that I didn't like and stuff like that. And I mean, obviously now in my 30s, I realize, I'm like, what does that do for me? That doesn't do anything. What does that do
mhm.
for those people? It doesn't do anything. Like, by you being overly negative and you vocalizing how much you hate something, what does that do? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. It just makes you look like a fucking asshole. That's it. And
Yep.
so it's like, if you want to have a conversation with me about like why you don't like it, or you're just like, I know you promote it, or you really like this product, but I just feel like it just didn't do this for me. And trust me, I have people in my DM that tell me all the time. I will have a conversation with you. I will be like, oh no, I'm sorry that happened with you. Like, let's talk about it. Because at the end of the day, I'm okay with having a conversation. I can have a conversation even if you and I do not agree eye to eye. You can be so vocal about something and we can have a conversation. But when people are just going on your social media or leaving negative shit just to be a dick and there's no real reason for it, I don't I don't understand that. I don't get
Right.
why people need to do that. Like, what do they get out of
No,
that by you
no,
vocalizing that?
no. And like, it's funny how this is almost like tying together a lot of things that we've talked about, from
Yes.
like race, politics,
Mm-hmm.
you name it. Like, uh, we're not all going to agree. We're just not, and nor should we. Like, I think it would be weird if everybody that I saw on Instagram was like exactly the same politics
Exactly.
and the same lifestyles. Like, we're different ages, races, genders. Our approaches to keto and health and nutrition. I have a lot of friends that aren't keto, friends that are keto. Like, I just think it's an important message. Like, can we all just be like a wee kinder to each other? Because like, you don't have to agree with every recipe or every value that I hold, but it's not super helpful to leave negativity. And I also think
Mm-mm.
when you speak negativity to somebody else, you yourself absorb some of that energy too.
Oh,
It's
110%.
right,
A
right,
hundred. I think we talked about this like on the last phone call. Remember, I told you, I was said everything, your words, it's all manifestation. Everything you speak, it comes out and you manifest that, whether however much you want. So if you're constantly being negative, constantly, you're manifesting it. So you're divulging into negativity. So if that's all you're spewing, then that's all you're gonna get. Like, if you
yeah,
focus on the negative, that's all you're gonna get. So it's
yeah,
like, for me,
yeah,
like I said, when I deal with people like keto police or people like this, I just choose to not address it. Like, there's been plenty of times people have been in my DMs and they say some really out of pocket shit, and then you know what I do? I just delete it and block
I
them,
just
and I
delete it.
don't even
Exactly.
give them opportunity to talk to me
Because
that
they
way,
just
because
want attention or
they
something.
just
I
want
don't know.
attention.
Yeah.
People just want to get your attention. They want a reaction, and you just can't give it to them. And I think that's the way sometimes you just have to approach life, because at the end of the day, not everyone's going to agree with you. Just like that. At the end of the day, not everyone is going to like, what you give to your social media platform, who you are. Not everyone's going to like who I am, and I can't sit there and try to plead my case with every single person and be like me, like me, like me. Cause like, that's exhausting and no one's going to fucking always like you, you
Yeah.
know? So
Yeah.
I just think that, like, with everything, like you said, it's just people like just need to be nicer. But also too, people just don't need to always vocalize shit that I just
Yeah.
don't agree with some of the things. I'm just like, why? What's the point of that?
What's the point? Yeah. And like, it's not just towards influencers. Like, I just want anybody listening, and I'm sure most people, if not everybody here, because they're probably following one of the two of us, and like, our vibe, we're like chill all day, like, nothing but love here. And so I hope that none of the listeners are like trolls or anything right now. And so like, but
We'll
even on
we'll find out.
but even on like a subtle level, if you're like in a space, and this is keto or not, this is anything, but if you're in a space and you're about to type a comment that's like, oh, that's not like, I would just say like, maybe just take 1 second and ask like why. We were taught at a young age, like if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it at all. And like, can we bring that back? Can we bring back kindergarten? I think it just takes like 1 second of saying like, hold on, what is this going to accomplish? Because like, it's not just within influencer spaces. I was listening to a podcast and it was talking about how the rise of anxiety had a spark jump within teenagers the exact year that smartphones became and so basically, and now every generation younger, like Gen Z, has exponentially higher anxiety levels than millennials, and similarly it goes up. So these kids are sitting here and like, this is the culture of social media, especially with younger kids. Like, go on TikTok, the comments are even worse. And so this idea of like, collectively, there is just not a nice vibe happening right now on social media in many ways. No. And it's creating so much anxiety where people feel like they can't be themselves. And I want to fight that a little bit.
I know. And you know what it is too? It's like, we come from, I mean, we're considered millennials, but we came from the rise of the internet, So like we experience all these new platforms from the very beginning, whether it be like AOL chat rooms and, all those different platforms, like everything that these new generations are experiencing, we literally saw it. So we were able to also experience life without a smartphone. Like when I remember I was seeing something like, when I lived in New York, I lived in New York when I was like 2021. I had a phone, and it was just a phone that whatever, but it had no fucking social media on there. You couldn't take pictures really. You had to still use a camera. Like, it didn't have any of that stuff. So we just used our phones just for like an actual, like, regular fucking phone, like a phone call, texting, that's it. Yeah. And the fact that our phones now have given people so much access to other people and allowed you, but you're basically opening yourself up to so much shit. It's really detrimental. Yeah. And so you have Gen Z who grew up on social media. They grew up understanding that like, that is what their reality is this social media, this perception, what they put out there. They put their best foot forward on social media, not in real life. I mean, you think about it, there's a lot of people that don't even know how to really like socially interact with each other because they only know how to do it on the fucking phone.
Yeah. No, you're right.
And that's what's scary, because from that it spews hate, because people have so much access to being behind a fucking screen that they're not putting themselves out there. They can be whoever the fuck they want, and they could say whatever they want, and they could spew hate all the time. So when you have a younger generation that's dealing with this from the very beginning, they don't know how to take themselves out of it. They don't know how to be like, I'm gonna put my phone down. That's not reality. They don't know how to do that.
I'm thinking about the conversation, and I'm just curious if like, because we were all on our phones so much in 2020, I wonder if that's like kind of create such a denigration of like the culture, because we all like lived on our phones in 2020 because we were stuck at home.
Oh yeah.
And also, to your point about like so much negativity coming out your phone, I had this visual of exactly where you started the conversation with like, put the black crystals around it.
You got to put it on the fucking phone. You have
put the black crystals around it. And I turn, my shit goes automatic. Like, I programmed it into my iPhone. Do not disturb starts at 6 p.m. It doesn't come back till 6 a.m. And I don't look at Instagram. I don't look at Clubhouse, social media, none of it late at night, because it's like, I don't even want that energy. And I highly recommend that people try that. They put their phones automatically on silent, do not disturb, whatever it is. They turn off those push notifications. They don't look at their phone after like 6, 7, 8 p.m. at the latest, and take some breaks from social media. I just came off a 7-day social media fast, as some people call it, just like a break from social media. Woo, it's refreshing.
It's nice. Like,
it filled my soul back up. Like I can't recommend it enough.
I know. I think it's imperative because we have to remember, like, we know what it's like without social media. We know exactly, like, granted, social media is great for us, like, in a lot of different platforms, but it can be very detrimental to us in general. So, like, I mean, there are moments I tell my husband, I'm just like, we need to have some time together, like, obviously on our phones. So, like, we'll play that game, Rumiku. We'll play cards. Like, we're like old people. Rummikub, yeah. We're like old people. Like, we love a good card game. We love dominoes. We love fucking board games. We'll sit there and just play for hours. And it's like, those are nice moments. Or reading, or watching a good movie.
Speaking of, I'm gonna send you. It's just called The Mind, but I'm like obsessed with this new game, and it's super simple. But you have to basically mind read each other, and it's like this. There's like it's the simplest thing. You just have to mind read like what numbers cards you guys have. Have you heard of this?
Is it like an actual game?
It's
like
just it's like a card game. It's a well, I wouldn't even call it a board game. There's no board. It's just a card game. It's a simple deck of cards. And it's like, at first you're like, wait, am I missing something here? Like, there's got to be some rules I'm missing. But it is like a complete mind fuck. And it's called The Mind because you're supposed, like, and you do this little routine where you like close your eyes and put your hands in. You're like, all right, we're going to start reading each other's minds. And you have to like kind of like guess when the people in the room. And so at first we're
I want to play that.
What is happening? You got to like feel each other's energy and like feel the time passing and like kind of without saying a word or making any like,
I want to do that.
It's just a deck of cards, and it is.
Send me all that info. I want to do that. Like,
Okay.
All that shit. Like, we are.
and we're gonna sit down. We're gonna do some readings. We're gonna keep talking about all the freaky shit because there's something going on right now. There's something happening in my life and in your life, but always happy to talk to a fellow Virgo, and just I adore you, girl. This was so much fun. Thank you so much for being here. And definitely anybody listening, make sure to find more of Desi. Desi? Can I call you that? I've never called you that before.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
It just came out. I don't think I've ever called you that before. You can find more of Desi.
Desi works for me.
It just came out. But Desiree can be found on social media at ketoassbih, but that's spelled ketoassbih. Like it's coming up on the screen right below you right now if you're on YouTube. Ketoassbih. You met her husband, ketoassbih. Really cute play on words, by the way. But thank you so much for being here. I'm gonna kick you off camera so that I can talk some shit on the bonus episode. For those of you guys listening or watching right now, catch me on Patreon, patreon.com/Chef Michael. I'm gonna film a little bonus episode where I talk privately about my thoughts and reflections about what we talked about today with Desiree. So that's at, again, patreon.com/Chef Michael. Thank you so much to our sponsor, Redmond Real Salt. They have the best salt in the business. I'm not kidding, guys. It really is the salt that I use every day, especially with all like the mixture of electrolytes they have in their salt. It's all natural. It's just really tasty. Yeah, it really is. So that's redmond.life, not redmond.com. Redmond.life, again, coming up here at the bottom. And you can go and shop there for a bunch of cool products and use the discount code Chef Michael for 15% off. If you haven't yet, maybe check out New Keto Cooking, the cookbook that just hit the market a couple months ago and is making waves in the keto community because it is not the same old diet food that you're seeing everywhere else. It's definitely a new approach to keto. Desiree knows. I appreciate you guys so much. Thanks for being on this episode. If you want more information, go to chefmichael.com/podcast with the dash, chef-michael.com/podcast. I'll see you guys on the next episode. And thanks again to Desiree. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye, girl.
Sure.